Oh, good. Okay.
Thank you for the reminder, and I'm going to choose which one was the best. So I got the one from this morning, but.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, as everybody's coming in, please visit tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. That's at the bottom of the page there. That is our one pager for today that has the links to the slides, that has the Q&A, that has all of the other supporting links for Seesaw, all the support videos, everything you could ever want in Seesaw for DPS is at tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. And you're going to hear me say that about 20 more times, because inevitably in the Q&A doc, that's going to get asked 20 times. So I will keep saying it over and over. So I'm actually going to take you there to get us started for today. Welcome, everyone. My name is Luke Mund, and I am the digital coach for the Southeast region. With me today, we have Lisa Lund, the Director of Ed Tech and Library Services, Steve Holtz-Russell, Manager of the MyTech Digital Coaches, and Aaron Magley, the Digital Coach for the Southwest. And again, everything is on tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. And our one pager then looks like this. So we have our beginner Q&A right up here at the top, and we have our beginner slide deck. If you would like to see the slide deck and the Q&A from our more advanced session, you absolutely have access to that as well, or you can attend the other one that will be at 3 o'clock today if you wish. Some of the material is the same at the beginning, but then we get into a lot more like using different apps and stuff on that. And we'll get into attendance and stuff later on. I want to highlight here that you're probably going to get overwhelmed at some points during Seesaw just because there are so many little click paths and so many little things to see. But we have videos to support everything here. So you're like, oh, I forgot how to add a co-teacher. Boom. We have a 2-minute video, how to add a co-teacher. How do I differentiate? I know he mentioned that, but how do I do that again? I forgot. Boom. Differentiation in Seesaw, nice little video, just a few minutes long. How do I search the activity library? We have that all here. So if you ever find yourself just being like, oh, he's going too fast, or I'm not going to remember that, just remember, come here. This is tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw to get here. That's right up here at the top, tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. We also then have supporting documents for our Seesaw 101 and 201 courses, which are very similar to these live synchronous courses, but the asynchronous ones are in Schoology, and they have all of our videos put together step by step to get you launched. So if you want to refer back to Seesaw 101 or 201, we also have those asynchronously to do as you wish on your own time. But today we're going to be all together doing Seesaw. Again, tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw to get access to everything here, our Q&A doc and our slide deck for this session. A note as we get started here too, that Seesaw is purchased for kindergarten through 5th grade in the district. This is our learning management system for kindergarten through 5th grade. If you are an ECE teacher or a middle school or high school teacher, sadly, this is not the session for you. You can feel free to leave and find something that is more worthwhile. But Seesaw is purchased K through 5. ECE does not have devices, so there would be no way for them to access Seesaw. And 6th through 12th access Schoology, which is more appropriate for secondary students. Seesaw is really great with elementary students, can be used for upper, but we have decided to use it for kindergarten through 5th grade. Again, you're going to hear me say it a lot of times, tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. It's at the bottom of almost every single slide so that you guys can see what we have. As we get started here, I want to highlight our crisis priorities for the year. So we have our different priorities here, and you can see that Seesaw is going to support all of these. Seesaw is going to support health and safety needs as we're working remote or in hybrid. It provides us with social emotional supports, and it helps us catch our students up with any unfinished learning and accelerate our learning. We also have the different scenarios that Seesaw can support us across all 3 of these areas as we are launching into the new year. And here's some really great data as to how our students fared in the spring and what we know about remote learning and maybe some issues that we would have with remote learning from before.
Hi, Luke.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt you. Just wanted to let you know that people are not seeing the slide deck. They're seeing the one pager.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Oh my gosh, sorry. There we go. Share. There we go. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to go back and hit these again then. So here's our 3 crisis priorities. Sorry, I was sharing the wrong tab there. And here are our plan for return to school and our key insights from the spring. Thank you for that, Steve. And then to get us started here, here's a quick little kind of inspirational video about the power of Seesaw. So we're going to watch this and then talk about it in just a second. So I really love that video because it shows the power that Seesaw has to bring together teachers, families, and students. It's all in one spot. So we have very wide feedback from the spring that students and families got really confused about the multiple platforms they could be using. And I really saw this as a teacher and a father in the spring. So my daughter had some assignments on Google Classroom, some on Seesaw, some on Raz Kids, some on ABC Mouse, some on a bunch of different platforms. We had like 8 different apps on her iPad. It was insane. It was really hard to manage. Well, we've consolidated that down to Seesaw being our home. We can use other apps to support that, like if you were still wanting to use Raz Kids, but Seesaw is going to be the place where we house everything, and they would go from Seesaw everywhere else. That is in direct response to the feedback from our families. But also I want to say that the family app, it's just called Seesaw Families, is really, really great for supporting that 3 facets of teachers, student, and families, that they can really interact. They can see everything that their students doing, communicate through the teacher, with the teacher through the app. And I will say that the one thing left out of this video is the power that we have with our administrators and our school leaders, because in the admin dashboard for Seesaw, we can see exactly when students were logging in or not logging in. So as we know that about 10–15% of our students had a hard time connecting in the spring, we can give them really targeted supports by having that analytics and see exactly how they're logging in. Admin can pull a report, say who hasn't logged in the last 3 days, and then get some interventions in place for those students. If you are joining us a few minutes late, that is A-OK. Our document for today is tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. That gets you all of our Q&A and our slide deck as well. So we can't do necessarily a turn and talk as we're all from home right now, but you can think about this question. So to me, maybe this is just me being a digital coach, but I've seen the power that technology can really show. Active learning can really bring students together in collaboration, communication, critical thinking. Our technology can give access to our students in amazing ways, sometimes even better than what we could do in a classroom, because they can really express themselves. I know for me, I'm like the worst artist ever with my hands, but give me a computer and I can create some amazing art. So that way that we can use technology to leverage great instruction for our students and get them learning in new and deeper ways. So we have a couple different paradigms for how education looks, right? We have the traditional worksheet. This would be little Luke Munn sitting in third grade class doing his third grade math standards and all the multiplication tables here. Is that do a worksheet just like this. Nothing wrong with the worksheet. We've been doing these for a long time. But we can have other activities in different platforms, including Seesaw, that can give us some really fun insight. So you can have an activity like this that's a gamified version, so kids can play a game at home with friends or family that can practice not only their multiplication facts, but also their subtraction, addition, and base 10 and all of that by playing a game. So you can get an activity like this and share it out. And this way in remote learning, we are pushing beyond what we could just do with paper and pencil and do things in new and greater ways and leverage, again, our families and our connections. So what's the difference? Which would you prefer, right? Playing a game that does your math facts, or would you rather do a worksheet? I think sometimes that there's some of each, right? They both can have their place, but Seesaw gives us a great learning platform that can help us try to do new, innovative things with our students and really get their learning visible. So today we're going to be focusing a lot on active learning and getting our students to be thinking and getting their learning visible. We can have them do worksheets, we can ask them questions and have them respond. But in Seesaw today, you will see how our students can get things in a deeper way and really explain their step-by-step instead of just turning in products at the end, that we can see the learning process. So again, it's that thinking and learning being visible that we really want to focus on today and really engaging our students. This is a great overview of what Seesaw is and what it's not and how it's linked. I ask you to refer back to this drawing over and over again because it'll help you understand how everything fits together. So Seesaw allows us to do photos, drawings, we can upload Google Docs, we can upload worksheets, we can create notebooks. We also can do our Google Suite. We're going to talk about how you do a doc or a slide or group project in Sheets with your students within Seesaw. So we don't actually have to do anything outside that. We can do that inside for all of these integrated options here. We also have options to use with links, other things. So like Google Meet. We can't do a Google Meet within Seesaw. We can't do a video conference in Seesaw, but we can very easily link to it, and we're going to cover that today. We're also going to talk very briefly about Castify and Edpuzzle and how we can use those with links. And we can use our Sora ebooks and audiobooks. Our library services team has done a lovely job of creating Sora resources for us and being able to use those in an online platform. And our checkouts for ebooks and audiobooks have been just going through the roof as our students are accessing libraries just digitally now. And if your school is a Pear Deck school, or if you want to use Pear Deck for free, you can just drop those Pear Deck links into Seesaw as well. We also have our DPS mail app. So we have webmail and Gmail. Both of those aren't going away. That's the same as we've always used. And then we have Infinite Campus. Infinite Campus is also staying the same in that we are doing attendance and grades in Infinite Campus. So attendance will still be taken daily in Infinite Campus, and grades will still be entered into Infinite Campus. Depending upon your grading practices at your school, you will be entering things into Infinite Campus. So if you're doing quarter grades, if you're doing summative grades, that's fine. That's up to your school. That's a school-based decision, but that will be done in Infinite Campus. So please check with your school how to do that if you don't know already. So to get started, we're going to log into Seesaw, and we have two different options for logging in as a teacher. We can go in through Teacher Portal, or we can go to seesaw.me. We're going to watch a quick video how to do this, and then we're going to give you guys time to log in with Seesaw using Clever. This is new for this year, so if you use Seesaw in the past, please watch this. This literally just launched yesterday, so watch the video. And again, all of this is linked at tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw so that you can get in and watch this video again later if you need.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to log in to your Seesaw account. First, you'll start off in the DPS portal. You can do this by going to portal.dpsk12.org. Sign in. If you have more than one portal, it will show here. Otherwise, just click Teacher Portal. Click See All Apps. Select Seesaw. Select Login as Teacher. Here you will land on your Seesaw classes. Alternatively, you can also log in by going to app.seesaw.me, clicking I'm a teacher, select Seesaw for Schools Clever Sign-In, find the district, Denver Public Schools.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I meant to pause it there. You can also choose your school if your school has set up an individual Clever there as well.
In this video, as teacher. If you have a homeroom or an intervention or an ELD class, those will be rostered to you automatically and sync nightly using Clever. If you are a specials teacher or a co-teacher, you will need to have the homeroom teacher add you as a co-teacher to their classes using your .org email address. If you are an educator who provides services that are not rostered in Infinite Campus, please see our SSP Seesaw recommendations document. For more information, please see the tutorials and other videos in the Seesaw 101 class or the Seesaw All-in-One document.
Okay, so we're going to give everybody a couple minutes to log in now using Clever. Again, you can go to seesaw.me, choose I'm a teacher, and then log in with Clever. Or you can go to your teacher portal, click See All Apps, and then click Seesaw from there. Either one, and we will be here to support you. We're going to take one more minute to practice logging in, get set and see your classes. But I want to point everybody, if you're joining late, to tinyurl.com/dpsseesaw, tinyurl.com/dpsseesaw. All right, coming back together. If you still want to log in and practice on that, that's fine. we're going to talk about what is rostered through Clever and what is not. So all students' homeroom will be rostered K through 5, meaning if I am a second grade gen ed classroom teacher, my homeroom will be rostered to me. If I platoon with another class, I will not have access to that class because I am not the teacher in Infinite Campus. I will need to be added as a co-teacher. Specials teachers also need to be added as a co-teacher to the homeroom. So we will have platoon teachers, SSPs, and specials teachers in one course. That is to give our parents and students one place to go for everything. Intervention classes will be separate. So ELD, intervention, and SPED classes will be rostered separately. That is for students to have a safe place to work amongst their peers and not be identified as having any special needs inside the gen ed classroom. So we don't want them doing like SPED assignments inside the gen ed classroom because that work might be visible. So we've given them their own space. As a former SPED student myself, I really appreciate that. But again, I want to reiterate this. All homerooms will be rostered through Clever. If you are a specials teacher or an SSP, you will need to be added as a co-teacher, and then everybody will teach out of the homeroom. How do I add a co-teacher? Here we go. So homeroom teachers, please pay close attention to this. I'm going to show you the deck here and then show it to you live. You click the gear at the top of your Seesaw homeroom course. Scroll down just a tiny bit and you'll see Manage Teachers. And then you will enter in your teacher's email address. Note, Seesaw goes off of .org email addresses. So for me, that would be luke_mund@dpsk12.org. Do not use the generated link. Send them a direct invite through their .org email address. So I'm going to show you what this looks like here. Oh, sorry, I need to switch to my teacher account again. Sorry. So I'm going to click on the gear at the top right. Then I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, kind of in the middle of the page here, Manage Teachers. And then I'm going to add an email address of my colleague teacher. Notice here, I already have a co-teacher on this class. You might have several co-teachers. We can have up to 20 on a course. So if you were used to the 5 last year, we can have up to 20 in our course. So our district purchase gives us 20. We can have a bunch in here. SSPs might need to be school administrators too, if they want to have access to everybody. Team leads might want to be administrators as well. It's up to you how you have admin privileges, but the majority of our teachers will be co-teachers. If you are, say, a special ed teacher or a center-based special ed teacher, you can be added as a co-teacher to as many classes as you wish. If you're center-based, but you still want to know what they're doing in the gen ed grade level classes, you can be added as a co-teacher. Just let the co-teacher know and they can add you in. Again, we can have up to 20. So co-teachers is our preferred method of getting everybody in one spot. This gives everybody an equal playing field. So our SPED teachers, our PE teachers, our art teachers, and our math literacy teachers are all in one spot, easy access, and all content then appears the same for our students. They don't need to switch to other classes. They don't need to do their math class first. We can have them do what content is available for that day and have all contents presented equally for them. Again, if there are anything that you think I'm going too fast for, please visit the one-pager tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. It's on almost all of our slides here. And we have videos that break down each of these pieces. So we have that 1-minute video on how to create or add your co-teachers. Go there and you can access the slide deck. So we are going to pause here for some questions at each part. So I'll ask my colleagues here, do we have any questions about rosters and logging in or anything?
Yeah, we have several. Remind me, because I can't remember. My brain is full. I said this to somebody else, but if they get a demo class does that automatically roll over into their permanent class, or do they have to wait until their class is rostered to start adding co-teachers?
I can chime in a little on that, Luke, if you want me to. So our product integration team, our product LMS product manager, was only able to give demo classes to teachers who did not have students attached to them so that they would have a presence in Seesaw. So those teachers will not have a class that is actually assigned to them through IC, and that's why they've been given a demo class. Anybody who had kids rostered to them was not given a demo class.
So yeah, then if you have a demo class, you will need to ask the homeroom teachers to be rostered to their class to be added as a co-teacher. Note that some of the schools I've heard have not finished their schedules. And so if students are not rostered to you in Infinite Campus, but you are a homeroom teacher, you might want to check with your registrar or whoever does scheduling with that. Other questions that have come up that we can't answer in the doc? All right. Thank you to the team for handling all of those. I know they're coming in quick in the doc, so that's great. So we are going to talk about how to add activities now. I'm going to switch over to my class so that you guys can see this live here. So here's just one of my demo classes, and I'm going to hit the big green button. This is where most of our things live in Seesaw. I'm going to assign an activity. So it's the big green button. And then assign an activity. This will automatically take me to my activity library. So if you created anything in the spring or a past class, that will be in your library. But we are going to create something brand new now. I'm going to go create an activity. I'll give it a title. Right. So say this is, I want this to be my math class. I would give it instructions here. And then I'm going to add in my voice instructions. For littles, or really for any students, it is a great idea to have your voice instructions included on there. If you are a bilingual teacher, you can also record your instructions in multiple languages. So I would add in my voice instructions simply here. Class, today we are going to be doing Math Unit 2, Session 4. Please start with your do now independently. Then we're going to move into our whole group, our small group times that will be live at the posted times in the lesson. And then you're going to do your exit ticket on your own today. See you soon. So you think, I need to start the year off with kinders, but my kinders aren't going to be able to read my instructions. Please do a Google Meet with the students, walk them through Seesaw to begin the year, and show them how to play the voice instructions so they can listen to your instructions through your device instead of having to read all of that. Then we have our multimedia instructions or example. You can use this as an exemplar place. So if you want to add in student exemplars or an exemplar that you're using for whatever activity you're doing today, you can. But I really like this as my lesson home. So I'm going to add in my full structure of my lesson in here. I can add in a photo. I can add in a video here. You can do up to a 5-minute video. If you would like to do a longer than 5-minute video, say you're recording part of your lesson or a lesson to do before they come to class or an announcement or something, if you want to do something longer, we have a tool called Castify that is being purchased by the district. We are working on a contract with them right now, so it's not live right now, but you can do longer than 5-minute videos using Castify, and that is in our Q&A doc. It's linked several times in there. We also have links and uploads, so I can take one of those Google Drive folders I was talking about from before, or a photo or a video I have saved on my local computer. I can upload that here. I can also give them a notepad, so if I want them to do a prompt in here, and then I can give them, again, an exemplar of what to do, or I can teach from here too, right? If I'm doing my live lesson, I can walk them through my writing process right here on a piece of paper. If I want them correcting spelling or vocabulary or grammar or something, I can do that live on my notepad right here with my students. Great place to use to teach our students. But my favorite place is that I can do a drawing and have a multi-page activity. This is what we recommend for most of our activities, that they are multi-page, and your entire content lesson for one day is in one spot. And say that again because it's really important. Your entire content lesson is in one day for one spot. If I do my do now and I send that out to my students, that becomes one activity. If I then do my whole group lesson, send it out, that's another activity. Then I do my small group, then I do my exit ticket. Boom, all of a sudden I've created 4 different activities for my students to do. Then they're gonna have all the core areas of social studies or science each day, math, literacy, specials, any other teachers that are in there that I have in my school. And they could then have 20 things to do in a day. For a first grader, that's crazy. So we wanna do everything in one spot for each content. I'm going to go slow here, and I'm going to hit things a couple of times. We also have a video how to do this on our one pager, tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. So I'm going to go down to the 3 little dots, and I always like to set a nice background, very visually appealing to our students. So I'm going to start off with this nice background here. And then I like to add in shapes for different workspaces for my students. So I'm going to do like a square here, right? And so then I'm going to get it where I want. I'm going to maybe make this my do now of the day. I can ask my students any questions for my do now. Maybe this is where I want to include some of my social emotional lessons, right? Maybe I want them to draw in this space how they're feeling today. So that could be a face, that could be a happy puppy, right? I can have them do respond in a bunch of different ways. They can also respond with audio or video over on the side here, how they want to. So they can respond with a video, they can respond with an audio clip if they choose to interact in that way. Then I would want to move into an assignment for the day, an activity I would want them to either do before they come to class or during class, it's fine. I can duplicate this page and make a copy of it, or excuse me, I'm going to add a new page. So this is what we call a multi-page activity that I'm including multiple things. Again, I'm going to go through this again. I'm going to set my background. My favorite of them all is this nice rainbow background, but I also have lined paper. I have some chart paper. I can practice my handwriting in here. It's so cool. Dot matrix, right? I even have some music paper here. I'm going to do my main activity here today. This time I'm going to choose a rectangle. And you know what? I'm going to change the color of my rectangle. I'm going to make it white here. Make it nice and big. And for my math lesson today, I'm going to ask them 3 different questions. Hit the text box, add it in here. So I'm going to go question 1. And then I want them to show their work down here in this space. So they can use the drawing tool and they could show their work, right? So they would write it out here. And again, in other platforms, we don't have the ability to actually see them drawing and doing their work. So they're going to break this down into their three. Sorry, my drawing sounds good. Maybe I'll use that marker here. 3, 3, 3 equals then my 6. And students can do this very intuitively. The great thing about Seesaw is that they know I can grab the pencil, I can grab a marker, a highlighter. There's a magic one here. That looks like an eraser. I can do that. I was blown away when my daughter started using Seesaw last August in her kindergarten class, how she was brand new. I didn't have to teach her how to use the pencil. She just looked at it and said, that's a pencil. Let me click it and let me start drawing on the screen. And she just did it very intuitively. Here as well, then I could just duplicate this page here. I would erase like all of this here, and then I would change my question up here as my text. So now I could go like 3 plus 4 plus 3, right, for my question 2. And I would do the same thing again, and I would ask them to do it. And so each one, they would have a space for their work to be done. On here as well, then I could do a closure and all of that. But now that you've seen it a few times, I think that you guys have the grasp for it. So I have my teacher workspace where I could do the work for them. And I also want my students to do their work on a template. Sorry, let me explain this here before I click on it. So a student template is going to make a copy for each student, and they're going to be able to do the work on the template. So right up here is my exemplar or my teacher workspace. Down here is going to be my student workspace. So I'm going to click to add a template, and I'm going to make my drawing similar to my beginning, right? So I'm going to make my background the same colors here. So my students would have the same do now on their page as they did on mine. So as I'm going through the lesson, they will have a same workspace as I did. Whatever opening I want here. And then I had another page. Did the rainbow background, right? And I would create my same space here, and then my students would each complete this activity on their own time. So then when I put the two together, I have my teacher workspace and my student workspace, and you can see they're very similar, and we can use them for different purposes. We're almost done with activities. We're going to pause for questions. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, that's okay. We have a whole video on just to do this, and this webinar is being recorded so that you can come back and see how this is all done. And I'm going to show you templates in a little bit where you can find these things pre-made. So I'm going to go save here. Now this is saved in my library, but how do I use it? So I want to send this out to my students. I have my voice instructions. I have my teacher workspace, my student workspace here. I'm going to go assign, and I'm going to do it to my example class here. But I'm going to click this little button here. That's Edit Students, Folders, and Skills. So here I have all of my students. But you know what? Brian needs a little bit of intervention. Brian is struggling with his math facts right now and has been identified as an MTSS intervention receiver. And so I'm going to unselect Brian from my list here, and I'm going to make him a differentiated special assignment for him. So I'm going to send this out to my students. And always when we send something out to our students, this is the very important step. This is organization. And I'm going to cover this several times, and that is using folders. So folders you can create just down here at the bottom. And we recommend you create a folder for each content area and each week. We suggest content areas because we're going to have multiple content areas in one spot. If you are a platooning teacher, or you are a specialist teacher, or you're a gen ed, math literacy teacher, you're going to want to be able to filter by just your activities. I'm going to cover this more later, but I'm going to choose my math for this lesson, and then I'm going to choose the week of. We recommend to do the week of, because if you do daily, it's going to get very overwhelming, as we're going to be in a remote learning for a prolonged period of time. Who knows what that looks like long term, but we at least have 8 weeks, and 8 weeks is much more manageable than 40 days of instruction, right? So we don't want 40 folders for the daily. We want 8 of at least our weeks. So I'm going to assign that there. I've had my students edited and my folders edited, and then I'm going to assign that to the class, right? But what about Brian? Oh no, Brian doesn't have an activity. So I'm going to go back to my activity library, my plus sign and my activity here. And look, here's my math lesson that I want to do today. I'm going to click on that. And then for Brian, I'm going to do a little bit of scaffolding for him. So I'm going to go copy and edit. Right here, then, I'm going to come down to Brian's workspace. And I'm going to go to number 3. Now, most of my students just get 3 plus 3. But for Brian, I'm going to give him a little bit of scaffolding. So I'm going to grab my marker here, and I'm going to go with 3 dots. 3 dots plus 3 more dots, right? Or whatever scaffolding, whatever interventions, whatever support you would have for your students, you could put in their own version. So this is just a very simple thing I could do for Brian here. Some scaffolding. And now when I save this, I can just give it like something that I have, or I could do right like an X or an A, it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to assign this to just Brian. So I'm going to go back to the same class. And I'm going to deselect everybody, and I'm just going to send this one to Brian. So that is a simple way that I can differentiate, give equitable access for all of my students. I could make a second version that's all in Spanish if I'm a bilingual teacher. I can use Google Translate to translate to Amharic if I have a newcomer. Or I can do a million different differentiations, modifications for my students within Seesaw. We can have SPED teachers, ELD teachers working together, sharing activities in one area in Seesaw that we could then support all of our students. So I'm going to pause here, take questions before we start moving into some of our other topics.
So Luke, can you clarify the difference between like the first example you did and the template, like adding assignment versus adding a template? So I think the difference between activities and an assignment, or an assignment.
Okay. Yep. So so here in my, I'll go edit an activity here. So right here is my example, is what they call it, or instruction. And this is the teacher space that is not going to be copied for each of our students. The template that is attached will be different and will be where the students open up. So as a student, when I click on that, it's going to take me right here and I can start working. And I'm going to show you guys some shared activities here in just a second in our DPS library that'll show you how those look different as we get more and more like schedules and meeting links and stuff put into our example area. So that'll become more clear as well.
I think maybe Luke too, like, I think I can say it, I guess, but like, I think there's several questions in here, but if you want to use the assignment for 3 classes, you can just make a copy and just add it to the 3 different classes. So I can add it to my, add it to all my different classes that I have. So It's not like you have to recreate the template again. So we've had that several times.
So when I hit assign, I can send this to multiple classes. So like if I'm a PE teacher and I'm going to do same activity with my 3rd graders as my 5th graders, I would just click all 3 classes right there. That's an easy way that I can send it out to all my classes. I don't need to make necessarily copy for each one. I can, but I can just send it out to all 3 classes right away. It's a good question.
And then Luke, I'm answering questions. Yeah, and I'm answering questions, not watching you. So did you show like how teachers see how the assignment is turned in? Like they can see in the activities, like all 15 kids' assignments?
Yes. Let me highlight that here too before I move on. So when I go to activities here, I will see when students have submitted a response, and it's also going to give me a red bar across the bottom that my students have submitted a response. And it'll show then waiting for approval because I have that turned on. I can see drafts. So students, when they're working on something, will have it saved as a draft. So I can actually see if they started something but not finished it. I can see their work on that, and then I can see not responded. Let me scroll down to one here. This is a good example of an activity I've given out. And I can see different student work that's been turned in. Now, all of these have been approved, but the process is similar. So I open up the activity here. I can see everybody who's turned it in and everybody who has not. And I can come in here, and when it's been submitted, I can either send back. It'll be a little box up here at the top. I can delete. So if it's complete nonsense, I don't want it, or I can accept it and it's going to become live for everybody to see. I also have my comment box down here. So I can enter in a comment, and again, for littles or students that need extra supports, I can include a voice descriptive feedback to them. Note that if you have students sharing for the journal turned on, which we're going to talk about here in about 3 minutes, that descriptive feedback that you give students will be visible for everybody. So if I say, hey, really great job, Alicia, I wish I could ride a hippo too, right down here, then when that gets posted to the student journal, everybody's going to see, hey, Mr. Mund really likes Alicia's hippo rides idea. That'd be cool. I'd like to ride a hippo, right? And so that would be visible there, and the other students can comment on it as well. Again, we're going to cover that more in a little bit, but just wanted to show you where that was down here at the bottom. And then I can hit next post and see my next student. And this would be a great example of something I want to delete or send back for revisions. So the question is, what would you invent? And this student just turned in a smiley face. I would then want to send this back because I don't want this in my feed, and I would want this student to redo the work. When I send it back to the work, that work is going to appear back in their to-do activities in their activity feed. When students have submitted work, the assignment will go away. So say my 9 students that have already responded to this, what would you invent? It goes away. So this just becomes gone and goes to their journal. For families, then it's really nice when their activity feed is removed. Everything is done. For my kindergartner, at the end of the day, every day, she would have to show me her blank activity feed that she's completed all, 6, 10 activities that were for that day, and everything's blank. If we have students that are just turning in like poop emojis or turning in blank pages because they want to remove things, send it right back to them. Contact the family, say, hey, I keep giving them assignments and they keep turning in blanks, right? That's a great phone call home. That's a great individual conference to have with a student over Google Meet or a message through the app, right? We want to make sure that students are actually doing work and clearing their activity feed so that this is blank. Even though from the teacher point of view, it looks like I have a whole ton of activities in here, and it will only get longer as the year goes on. For students, they will clear it out whenever they add a response. All right, I practiced my wait time there. We're going to move on then, and I'm just going to show you this for our beginner group here. If you would like to use Google Drive, please watch this video. It's also linked on the one-pager, tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. And this is really for our upper grades as you get into some more rigorous, challenging, deeper thinking, longer activities. So if I want to do like an essay writing with my 5th graders, right, there's going to be multiple stages to that. We're going to write our introductions, and we're going to write our body paragraphs, and we're going to write our conclusions. That's going to be a multi-stage thing. This shows you exactly how to do that. But for most activities in like our lower grades, you're not going to need to use Google Drive for most things. And so that's why I'm going to let you guys do this one on your own time, but know that that is there and in our one-pager for today. I alluded to this a little bit before, but you have 2 options of running your class. So option 1 is that students can see each other's work. As soon as I approve an activity, that activity is then going to go to the class journal, and all students are going to be able to see each other's work. So for Brian's differentiated work there, they're going to see my scaffold that he already had the dots put in. Now, are they going to know that Brian didn't put those dots in? Probably not. So that's a differentiation that I don't mind doing in my gen ed class and doing for Brian, because they're just going to think probably Brian did those 3 dots and then added them up to a certain amount, right? So that is visible differentiation, but for that case, it doesn't matter. If I'm going to be doing more intense scaffolding, I might want to think about doing that in a different setting. So using those separate ELD intervention courses and special ed courses for my students to do that work in a safe space so they're not identified as having special needs. But this is a really great way that our students can communicate, collaborate with each other. I loved in my daughter's work that I could see other students commenting on her work and giving her great feedback. The para was always in there giving feedback to students, and the teacher was, and I could see all of that. And it was really fun to see all the communication and collaboration. The downside is that differentiation, or if students just don't do that high quality of work, and then that they might feel self-conscious, or they might not want to turn in work because of that. Our option 2 is that we have students cannot see each other's work in the settings, and instead we enable a blog and we allow student work to be posted to the blog. So our students will not just be free and open to see anything that is approved, but we can post exemplar student work to the blog. I'm going to show you what this looks like real quick here in Seesaw. So in my settings, I'm going to come down here and I could turn off see each other's work. We always want items to be approved. And I can enable the blog. And in this class, I have enabled the blog. So then I get this lovely new tab in my blog when I've enabled the blog. And I can post my student exemplar work. So Von Miller here gave me a really great response as to what he would do with our prompt. And so this is now visible on our blog. Our work should be posted to a password protected blog so that your students have a password that could be something as simple as your name, but we cannot publish student work without it being protected, because we don't want Aunt Susie to find the blog and be able to see somebody that she doesn't even know work, because that's a privacy issue. So the blog then becomes public at the blog.seesaw.me/Mr. Mund's class. And Aunt Susie could come there if it's not password protected and see Von Miller's work, even though she's not supposed to. So we need to be careful with that. So either one of these options is A-okay. That's why we lay them out for you, option 1 and 2. Some schools are choosing to do this together as a school. Some grade levels are getting together. Specials teachers, you guys need to have this conversation with homeroom teachers. Homeroom teachers need to have this with SSPs. Figure out what's best going to work for you, because that's the way the class is going to be set up. And then you guys can move on from there. All right, I'm going to pause again for any questions before moving into the activity library.
Oh, no, because you'll cover it now. I think if you will cover, like, I think Luke in the activity library, just kind of how sharing works, like picking up someone else's from your school and using it. Like if Mrs. Lund creates the assignment and you're the SPED teacher, you can just go in and pick that up. If you could explain that when you do that, that'll answer a couple questions. Thanks.
All right, yeah, here we go. This is like one of the #1 questions we get. And this is one of my favorite things about Seesaw. You hear me say I love a lot of things about Seesaw, but this activity library is going to make your life easier. So pay attention, sit up in your chair, turn up the volume here. This is where you really get exciting. So I'm going to go to my activity library again, which is just from Assign Activities. And these are my personal activities in my library here. If I want to share something with my SPED teacher, or if I want to share something with my colleagues, I can come in and say, hey, I made this really cool template, even though this is not the coolest one in the world here. But I could then share this out. We have 2 ways of sharing this out. So I can go share activity off of these 3 little dots at the bottom. And this is on our one-pager, tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. And so I can share this to my district library or my school library. So if I choose school/district, I can choose to send this out to everybody in the district or just to send it to a specific school. So I can share it with my school that way if it's something cool I really wanted. I would choose a subject level and a grade level for it, and you can choose multiple subjects or grade levels if you would wish, and I could share it out that way. The other way is that I could do it by direct link. So each activity in my library has a direct link. So I could send in an email and say, hey, Mrs. Lund, this is the activity I was telling you about that you probably want to make a copy of. Here's the link. And I just put that in an email to her. So that's how I can share about how do I get all those really cool things out in the world. I want them for myself, especially because I'm overwhelmed, overworked teacher, right? I need some time savers. So when I go to school and district library, look at all of these wonderful things here. I love it. Teachers are already sharing out. Curriculum and instruction is sharing out. The ed tech team is sharing out. And we have all of these amazing things to do. Look, we have examples that people have done in the spring. We have different worksheets, word searches that our students can do. I can grab any of this stuff here and I can add it to my class. Now note, this is anybody in DPS is sharing here. Does that mean everything is going to be absolutely amazing? No, not really, right? I don't know how amazing some of these things are. It's kind of like using Teachers Pay Teachers, if you've ever used that before. That some things are really great and some things aren't. We can rate things by the little heart here, so I can, kind of like upvote something or give it a like, and that will say to others kind of an indication of how good the activity is. But for the most part, I want to do searches. And I'm going to give you guys a very key search here. So I'm going to highlight this, DPS Ed Tech. Our team here, so Aaron has already created some, and we have other ones on here. Our team creates templates and resources for you to use using DPS Ed Tech. So if you want to write that down in your notes, right, we have DPS Ed Tech. And when you pull that up, we have curated, professionally made resources here. So we have like a weekly calendar organizer. If you want to make a flipped asynchronous lesson, we have that built out for you. We have a lovely lesson here that's about communication and collaboration. And the one that, oh man, this was just uploaded yesterday and is up to 84 hearts already. Makes me have all the feels, is that we have this lovely ed tech template for a complete lesson. So I'm going to grab this. I want this for my math lesson when my students come back, right? So I'm going to grab this. The three little dots down here are our friend, just like we shared out. And here I'm going to copy and edit the activity after I've given it my little heart. So you can see I've already given it my heart here, and I'm going to grab it. So I'm going to go copy and edit. So now that pulled it out of the district library and made a copy in my library through the magic. And then I'm going to make this my new math lesson. Say, wow, this was way better than my old Unit 2 math lesson. And so I'm going to use this one instead. I'm going to add in my voice instructions, everything we went over before. And I'm going to use this lovely template. We have video added in. I hit it before, but I like hitting everything twice. Hit the little camera here and I can add in a video. This is a video overview of my lesson. So if students cannot join me during my normal class time today, maybe they have something going on with family, maybe they're out of town or something, they can catch up by watching my lesson overview. I have a space for my standards. My CLO, gotta love those CLOs. My homework section right here, I have my math lesson that I would put in here. I have then each of the pieces of my activity already built out. I love this template because it's agnostic for any content. So I can use this for special ed. I can use this for PE. I can use this for anything, right? So my PE lesson, I could have a do now, and I can link to each of my pages. It's going to take me right to my do now, right? I can include a video here. I want my students to do some jumping jacks to warm up. And then I want them to film themselves doing the jumping jacks back. Or they would just give me a little thumbs up or something here that they've done it. They complete their jumping jacks and then they come back, and I can link back to my homepage. They come in here, they take their pencil and they say, hey, I did that. I did the do now. Now I'm going to move on to this. I'm going to have a live PE lesson today, right? So now I can have like my live lesson linked here on my slide, and I say, hey, I want you guys to come to Mr. Munn's PE class. And I would have my link for my nickname here or here. So there's two different formats. So I can have them go to meet.google.com and then enter in the nickname here. Or I can have this linked in using this direct link where they just will open up the meeting right away. And that is meet.google.com/lookup. This is in the Q&A document. So when you ask, it's in the Q&A document. It's linked several times in there. Meet.google.com/lookup, and then put the nickname, and it will take them directly there. That's how you guys all got into the session today, was by using the short link there that we set up for all of you. So I can do either the nickname here, or I like giving both. I can then have my live lesson, and then I can have my students respond back that, hey, maybe we're going to be doing some soccer moves, or we're going to be doing some calisthenics today, and I'm going to have my students film their responses here for our whole group. Maybe I have them do two different activities, so they do activity 1 and 2 for our whole group. Then I break into some small groups for whatever content area I'm teaching. I set up my groups. I can put their names here, and then I'm going to have different nicknames and different links for each of my small groups, and I'm going to post what time they are. Again, it's one spot. Our families want one spot. Our students want one spot. They don't want to click on this and then click on that and click on this, right? Do now here. Your small group over here, your lesson over there. One spot. It's all right here. And if you ever get lost, I can just go back to my homepage here, and I can check off as I'm doing and make sure that I have it all in one spot. And we had some questions before of like, hey, how does this look different for the teacher space and the student space? So notice I had my CLO and stuff on there, links out. Well, I don't need my CLO in my student template. I just need their work. So here's where my students can respond to their do now in their own copy of this. So I have my own teacher workspace, and then the templates is where my students would work as well. Feel free to change, modify, copy, edit, upload your own version of this, add in 6 activities. I don't care. This is up to you. We just wanted to give you a base, someplace to start, because these templates can kind of take a little bit of time to get started. But after that, you can just use them over and over again. Do I want to do the same thing over and over again with my students? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. If I'm going to use, say, like a Bitmoji classroom, or if I'm going to use a multi-page activity, I want the same thing to look the same every day. How does my students join? It's the same thing every day for our whole group. How do my students join their small groups? It's the same thing. What does their exit ticket look like? It's going to be a similar space, maybe different questions. Maybe I want them to respond with videos. Sometimes I want them to respond with drawings. That's fine, but it's going to look the same. So our students have predictability, and our parents can know what to expect and how to assist their students as we're working remotely. So that's our activity library. It's absolutely bonkers cool. I save it now. It's in my own library. Look at that, my lesson. It's so much better than the one I made before. And now I can assign that out to my classes, or to multiple classes, to individual students, however I want to do with that. But I can grab those things from our library and share them out. And I'm loving to see all those libraries filling up. So again, I'm going to pause then about our libraries and any questions. So we have a question about sharing student videos in the blog. Anything that the students submit as a response, whether it's a video response, a picture response, whatever, you can share that out on the blog. And that will appear that way in the journal as well. So as students do videos, and I love videos because, again, one of our things we want to talk about today is making learning visible in the remote setting, right? And that's how we can do it, is that students respond with videos. We can actually have a video and a drawn thing at once, or put an audio with something that they typed out, text-based, so that they can explain their learning and really go deeper than just doing one mode. And the multi-page activities allows us to really get that deep thinking and learning in multiple modalities.
I think, Luke, maybe showing the wrench again about where they can change like their logo and colors, so that for a homeroom class and then like a special ed class, maybe I could show that I could change the color or something so that kids would know which class was mine if they were in a special ed class.
Yep. So there's a lot of customization that we don't have time to cover today, but I'm just going to show you where most of this is. So here's my just example class. And if I go to the wrench at the top right, I for sure want to customize my class. So I'm going to change my little icon here, although I love my robot. And then I'm going to choose my different color here. Let's choose some Rockies purple here. Rockies are kicking butt, although not last night. And then this is where I can customize my things. No, we do not need to do home learning codes or sharing out student codes or anything like that. Everything's auto rostered into our main classes. That's where we want to be going. I can manage my family access so I can see who is signed up. Family access is coming very soon. It will be launching, I believe, August 20th, and that will be through Parent Portal and through email to all parents. Here is then where I enable my blog. It is disabled by default, so you won't see the blog tab over on the right-hand side until you enable that. You can do your different blog appearances. You can connect multiple teachers' blogs. So if you have platooning or special ed teachers, you can connect those. And then here's another spot I can manage my folders. So again, when I post an activity, I want to choose what content area it is, and then my week of. So here I can come in and I can edit those. I like to do those just in the assignment as I'm making them though. It's easy enough to manage it there. And then our skills is an advanced thing, is that it's basically how you can assign standards to each of our activities. All right, we are getting towards the end now. We just have a couple sections left. I'm going to go over organization. I've been teasing a lot of this before, but it's such an important skill, especially as we're going to have multiple co-teachers on each course. So I'm going to go over this again. We want to have the content tagged and the week of for every activity. I'm going to show you then how we can use this in our classes. So when I come to my class and say, I'm the tech teacher, I assign something on Tuesday because that's my day of the week that I'm going to post to all of the homerooms, right? I gave my students an activity on Tuesday. Now it's Thursday or Friday. So I'm going to come back and journal to the journal, grab my activities, enter some grades into Infinite Campus, give some descriptive feedback. So I'm going to come in. My activity now is like way down here in the feed. So I'm going to come back actually to my journal, and I want to look not only for this week, but maybe at some students from last week that have caught back up. And so I come to my class journal, and I'm going to click on my folders, and this is then where I can see my folder. So say then I open up my math items, and I can see all of my math items. This is just student turned in work. So it's all going to be in one spot then by content. So this is a great way then for our specials teachers, or say you're the platooning math teacher, to just go in there and see math. You don't need to worry about everybody else posting and what they're doing, but I'm going to filter down to just my stuff by using my folders. I'm going to show that one more time because it's super important. I'm going to go to the journal, come down over here. I'm going to click the folder, and then I can pull up just the literacy. We also do the week of, because then that gives some feedback for our students and families as to when things are due. If students get really behind, you have the option of then removing them from an assignment. Maybe you just want to submit something for them really quick so that it's not as important, right? Like, so if I'm doing a science unit and then I'm doing a social studies unit 2 weeks later, well, as I'm well into the social studies unit, I don't need them going back and trying to catch up on science stuff. I just want them to move on to the social studies. So then I could just go in and remove them from all the science stuff. So then they would only have the social studies activities in their feed. That is up to you to do that as well. Here are those steps again. We have a video in the one-pager that's just called Staying Organized, and that is all about how to use folders, how to do your grading and stuff. Again, use that one-pager as you're leaving here today, tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw, tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw, and it's linked in the Q&A document a lot. I'm going to pause here before we get to our last section. Do we have any questions about organization?
One of the questions, Luke, is do students have all 6 options to answer any assignment? Meaning, do they get all the tools, the typing, the video, the audio, etc., the notebook for every assignment, or do you narrow that down for them by, can you choose the tools that they're able to do their assignment with?
Yeah, so if you make a template for your student, so say you have like 3 questions that you want them to answer in just a notepad, it's going to pull up the notepad, and then they can like do just the notepad activities. And if you give them a drawing, then they could do like video and stuff in there. That's why we do more drawings than anything else. But that they can answer anyway if you don't give them a template. But if you give them a template, it's going to ask them to complete it in that way, if that answers the question. So no template, they can respond to any of the 6 ways. If you do put a template, they're going to respond in that way. But then the drawing section allows us to respond in lots of different ways too.
Thank you, Luke.
Yep. That's a good question. Nobody's asked that one yet. All right, our last section here, being mindful of time, and we're going to have open Q&A at the end. So how do you view and create posts? This is mostly for hybrid and in-person. When someday we get to those things, how do I do a view and create posts? So back in my class here, say I'm doing an awesome math lesson with my kids, and little Von Miller here says, hey, Mr. Munda, I would really love to practice multiplication with items that I have in my apartment. Can I send you a video of that? And I say, hey, that is an awesome extension, Mr. Miller. I want you to send out that to me as a post. So little Vaughn then would come in here and he would hit the plus sign, and he's going to do post student work. Notice this is not an assigned activity because it's not a regular class activity. This would be like something above and beyond, right? This is also a really great way to do like social emotional work. If I don't want them to have to respond directly to an activity, I don't want to make this kind of like a thing that they might expect a grade on. I just want them to feel free. How are they doing today, right? I can do a check-in. So I'm going to go post student work, and then it's going to pull up all 6 options and they can do whatever. So then little Vaughn could take a picture of his objects that he's counting in his class, sorry, in his apartment, how he's doing multiplication with items in there. He can respond in different ways, right? So say he really wants to show his multiplication by using some of our shapes. So he can respond here then as an extension work, and he could use like some number blocks, right? So he could do like his multiplication by using some number blocks, right? And so he could choose to respond in a different way. And this would just be a straight up post, and then that appears out for me. I can have it for anybody here, but I'm just going to go like my sample student. They would just choose it for math, and then now that gets posted out here. For in-person learning, this is really great. If, say, I'm doing a dress-up day for social studies, we're doing famous characters from history. So I have a little Abe Lincoln, I have a little Sojourner Truth, I have a little Martin Luther King, right? Anybody in my class, and I want my parents to see through the app how their students were looking. But I don't want to share out photos to the whole like email group of my families. So in here, I would go post student work, and I would take a picture using a tablet or my phone, because I have the Seesaw app on here for a teacher on my phone, and I could take a picture and just upload it for that student, and the families would have access to it. Or if I did an activity in class that I really wanted parents to see, and again, I don't want to send it in an email, I could just come in here and within a couple of clicks, I could take a picture and send it to them. And I don't need to worry about looking up their email address. I don't need to worry about sending it out to everybody. I would just send it directly through the app to my families. I want to hit too while I'm in here that our inbox is a great way to send messages to our families. So you can send whole group messages. So if I'm going to come in here and I want to send out an announcement that I can send to just my students, I can send to just my families, or I can send to family and students. I like both getting it. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to type in my announcement. Our family app translates into 34 languages is what I believe they're up to right now. We are working on the communication for our families getting connected. Again, that's coming here in the next couple of weeks. On Parent Portal, we do have a number of resources, and we are translating those resources into the 8 consent decree languages so our parents can get access to the app. We want them connected to the app as much as possible because it's really great that they can see what's learning is going on with their student. They can message within the app. We had a lot of students and families request that they used app communication instead of maybe email or phone, because we have our phones with us a whole lot more than like email, right? And I get a whole lot of emails from a whole bunch of different people. That's not the best way to get a hold of me if you want something personal from me, right? But sending me a notification in Seesaw app, I'm like, hey, Tora, my daughter did something, or hey, Mrs. Smith, her teacher for kindergarten, sent me a message on there. I can see that kind of rises to my priority list. I get that notification come across my screen, right? And then I would want to check it.
Hey, Luke.
Yep.
Can you go over grabbing an activity from the library and saving it to your own library as your own?
Yep, I can totally do that again. That's super important. So I'm going to go add an activity, and it takes me directly to my activities here, but I'm going to go to school and district. I'm just going to grab something random now this time, right? Say, okay, back to school. This looks cool, right? Katie Butcher, I don't know who she is, but it looks cool. So I'm going to give it a heart, and then I'm going to go copy and edit activity. And now it is in my activity library when I save it.
Okay, so it's the clicking the heart that does it, because I thought, I was taking a different approach.
You have to click the heart to grab it, and then you have the option here. So if I don't have the heart,
right, take the heart off and look at your choices if you can.
Yeah, it doesn't let me take the heart off.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, because I'm in my own now. So,
right.
But yeah, I need to give it a heart, and then I can go copy and edit. So maybe that heart is the activity or space that was missed. Good questions. All right, we are going to. We're going to move into our Q&A section, but I just want to shout out what you guys have done so far today in the last hour and 17 minutes. So we've gone over the different ways to view student work. We've talked about approving student posts, the different ways you can do that with blogs to post exemplars or having it more freeform. We found out how to grab activities from the DPS library from your own school library, how to assign activities from your library and from the DPS library, and how to get things into your journal and talk to our families and get them connected. So I appreciate everybody here. Teachers work so hard. My wife is a special ed teacher at a middle school in DPS right now, and she's working her tail off. We are working our tail off to support you guys. I know that it's a lot right now. I know Seesaw can be overwhelming. Give yourself a break. It's going to take a little bit for you to learn. Focus on your students, learn a little bit at a time. And I'm going to highlight again, tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. In here, you can find your digital coach. So who's your regional person or MyTech person to support your school? We have our Q&A, our slide deck. You can actually see the advanced. So if you don't want to take the advanced course, but you want to see, hey, what's in that advanced one? And we have all of our individual videos and activities right here for you. So tinyurl.com/DPS Seesaw. Also, don't forget to check in, give your attendance form here. There is a little special thing with our attendance. So I'm going to show you as you scroll down with our attendance form to choose Seesaw as a class. Make sure to choose Educational Technology and Library Services. That is our department that we are part of. And then you can choose Seesaw. So thank you, everybody.
Hey, Luke, can you show from a student perspective what it would look like? Like what do they see in their stream? What does that kind of look like from a student perspective? I know you could show them the student piece too, but if they don't have anything in there to help them kind of understand that.
Sure. And this is open Q&A, so just keep dropping those questions in there. Or if you've done, if you've reached your max for learning today, then please feel free to use this time to play around or as you please. So I'm going to come in here then, and as a student, I'm going to take like this multi-page recording here. I'm going to go add a response here, and I'm going to just like add in my own text box here, right? Type it in. I'm going to answer each thing. Let's just imagine that I'm going through all of this as a student. Text box. Right, and then when I turn it in, I'm an admin, so it goes straight to the journal. So mine don't get approved because I'm an admin. But now I have that marked as done here as an admin, but for students, that's going to get cleared out. So they're not going to have that anymore. And actually, if you saw, it went down to 20 activities before it brought it back. Other questions? Okay, so to go back over our...
Yeah.
I was going to suggest, sorry, I don't know if Lisa, you were about to say something.
Yeah. Do parents choose their language or does the teacher? I don't remember. I'm sorry.
It asks them when they set up the app. So when they download it, it'll ask them what language.
Okay.
And Luke, apologies if you've already covered this, but just in terms of the relationship between the teacher example and the student template, are there ways to streamline the connection between those two or anything? So what I'm hearing a lot is teachers trying to think about the examples they're creating, but then also using some of the stuff in the example in the template. And if you already covered that, I apologize, but I think it's still, there are a few people out there with that question.
Yeah, and this is something unique to Seesaw, so it's kind of going to take a little bit of like using it to get used to this. But in my teacher example here, it's my full lesson with everything, and my student template is just my student work area. So again, my teacher lesson here, I have my CLO. My students don't need the CLO if I don't want it. And here, right, if I have like first graders, they don't need that in theirs, right? They don't need the standards listed in there. So as I come in and I look at my teacher example here, I have my do now. I want to do that do now with my students. And so then I have it in both spots. So I can draw on my do now. Maybe I want to model, how am I feeling today? And I'm going to draw a horse because I'm feeling fast today or something like that, right? And then I want my students to do the same on theirs. So I do a lot of the same activities so that I can model with my students. Or as I'm teaching, if I'm doing, say, our whole group lesson, I can do work on my example, and then students can copy the work or maybe finish the work or do the work on their own in their templates. So go ahead.
So I actually have kind of even a more specific, simple question.
Yep.
If you create something in your teacher example, is there a way to easily duplicate that and add it to a student sample, to your student response?
Not that I know of. I wish there was.
Yeah. I mean, you can copy and paste like certain elements, I think.
Yes.
You certainly do that with text. I was trying to figure out if there's a way to do it with images.
Yeah.
But the beauty is you only have to do this once for yourself, once for the teacher template and once for the student, because that becomes your shell for every lesson, for math, for literacy. If you want it to be every time, you're just going to take that shell and do a copy edit and then fill it in with the content. And that shell stays there in your library the whole time. So you only do both of those pieces the one time.
That makes sense. So you're basically, just to reiterate, you are creating you're creating a teacher example template for yourself, and you're creating a student template for yourself. And then every time you want to create a new lesson, you're just copying that activity that you have that teacher example and that student response template in, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And you can create like different ones for yourself or different versions. If you want to do your math and literacy similar but different, just so they have the visual cues, you can, right? Maybe you want to make your response boxes yellow for literacy and blue for math. But once you have that, you should use the same template over and over again for all of your math lessons, just to save yourself tons of work. Good questions. I really like this group today. The 8 a.m. class didn't have as many questions.